Hello and welcome to the ZiaWoolz Studio Buzz podcast, episode 39. Hello and welcome to the ZiaWoolz Studio Buzz podcast, episode 39. My name is Doug and I am coming to you from Albuquerque in the beautiful desert of New Mexico. I am also the dyer behind my little fiber yarn company, ZiaWoolz. Duh. Okay, it's been a while and I've been really busy because we were out of town yet again. My husband had some family business to attend to in Florida. That's where he's from, and so I decided to join him and we expanded the visit to a little mini vacation. And we started off in Orlando and then spent a few days in St. Augustine, which is just really such a beautiful old town. It's apparently it claims to be the oldest city or the oldest settlement in the United States, and it's just very nicely set up for tourists. People can make their travels from the different sites, between the different sites with a little trolley. And then there is a walking zone with nice little stores and restaurants and ice cream places, and we just had a really good time there. And I can only say, if you get a chance to visit, grab it. It's definitely worth your while. As you can imagine, travels are always come always with knitting time, lots of knitting time when you have to make some distance with a car. And so my husband is usually the one who drives. I was the one who got to sit and knit. And when we were exploring during the day, I mean, that's the downtime in the evenings where you just relax with some knitting fun. And I brought, as usual, a lot. In this case, not even too much, because I touched everything. I finished some things, and I've done worse, where I have carried a whole a whole sweater project to Germany. I think that happened last year, and I carried it back and I had not touched it. Goodness, yes, this time better. Yeah, as usual, I got pretty stressed out before we left, because I get pretty worked up because I want to bring the perfect things that I enjoy, and so they have to be suitable for car travels, but not too boring, because I mean, for the car you could knit on socks all the time for 2 weeks, but that's too boring. So I stressed out quite a bit on that matter, but in the end it all turned out perfectly. The funny thing is that I planned to work on a cardigan, which I have made many in that style, with that concept, which I came up with a few years ago. It's a top-down one, and I meant to bring one on the trip, for the plane, and because it's chilly usually when you go inside with the air conditioning, especially in the south. But I forgot my little cardigan, and so already on the way going there, we sat in the airport for quite some time, and because our flight was delayed, and so I was cold. I got to knit a lot already waiting for our flight in Albuquerque. And then when we got there, I only had a lacy shrug that was in my suitcase that I had checked. And so I really wanted to finish that cardigan. And I know I'll show you later. It's one that I make with fairly thick needles, so it's an easy one to finish quickly, and that I did. But I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Let me start off with my socks that I worked on. You're probably sick and tired. You're gonna say, oh Doc, seriously, you're gonna show those socks again? But at least one of them, one pair is finished finally. This is ZiaWoolz yarn. The base is called Taos, and it's my superwash Corriedale nylon blend in the colorway One World. And yes, 2 socks. And I think I finished this one on this trip, and I put a progress keeper in here, so I did this tip. Yeah, and this is how much I have left over, but it looks like quite a lot, but it's a fairly plump yarn, so I think it's actually looks more than it actually is. So I pretty much always knit my socks like this, ribbing with a number of rows, random, often 17 rounds, and then I just keep note of how many rounds of stockinette I work before I start my heel, as well as the foot then. And I do count my rows. I know some people measure. I'm a counter. I have to be exact in my head, for my head, and I make them usually with DPNs, and the size is 2.5 millimeters. Is that, I believe that's a 0 in US size, not sure. And then I have also worked on my prom socks. That's another, I mean, prom is the colorway. And I don't know why these don't grow faster, but I guess it's because I don't usually knit socks when I'm at home. I pick a more demanding project, but these are more something that I work on when I'm on the go, when I knit something small, portable, and easy. Because I must say I love the yarn. I love this colorway. And yeah, I just started with the second one. They live in a bag that I've made, one of my ZiaWoolz bags, Wonder Woman, sock size. And I have only started with sock number 2, so that'll be a while before these guys get totally finished. I did want to mention once again that my sock blockers, you possibly wonder what they are. They were some Valentine's placemats that I got at Target a long time ago. I think probably marked down after Valentine's, and the material is a fairly sturdy plastic, but not too hard to cut with scissors. So the way I got the shape was I literally put a sock on the placemat and traced the shape, and of course made it longer for the leg, and then I cut it out and I kind of adjusted where it, of course, I mean, obviously for obvious reasons, it's going to be too big when you do that. So I adjusted, and I think because of the material, I had to smoothen the edges a little bit with a file, some kind of a, what's the word? Is that even the word? Is that a word? A nail file? Yeah, like a nail file, but a different one, a larger one. I think they use them for the feet. I have it for crafting. So that's these, and my kids used these for, you can see it a little bit, maybe not really. My kids used these for crafting when they worked with glue and paint, to protect the table. And of course they're grown up now and didn't need them anymore, but I wanted to make more. I don't even know why, because how many sock blockers do you need? So I at some point bought some more placemats, but you don't really find this material readily, and so I tried out this, which is kind of like a foamy thing. Can you see? It's about maybe a quarter-inch thick, but I found that this was even a little bit harder to work with, because when you cut this, even though it's easy to cut, I had a lot of little corners, and even though it's a soft material, the yarn would get caught. So it took me quite some time to even out these little cut corners, but it's okay. And the way I did it with all of these that I have, I punched a hole in at the top, and they're hanging in my studio from a hook, and that's what works just fine for me. So I also brought, guess what, my Whiteout shawl. That's probably another thing that you're tired of seeing, but this time it's finally finished, and I have blocked it since I finished it on the trip also, and blocked it at home just the other day. And oh my goodness, what a transformation with blocking a lace shawl. So here it is, the Whiteout by Melanie Berg. I am so, yes, this is the right side. I am so pleased with this. I adore how the lace blocked out. The lace pattern is just really pretty. And I was really surprised with the size that I got. I used lace yarn. It was actually my first lace project. You're gonna say, oh wait, but you made a green one. Yes, I did, but I started and finished the green one after I was already way into this, because I wanted to bring that one as a gift to my mom when we went to Germany. But with this one, since it was for me, there was no rush. What I used is a yarn that was a souvenir yarn that now I can't remember the company, but I bought it on a vacation, and it has a content of sea cell, which was something new to me. And I excuse me, I dyed the orange to match. I did not want too much contrast. As you can see, it's in the lace, the contrast is higher. It shows more than it does in the stripes. So I used 2.5 millimeter needles, I think I said that. And what else do you need to know? Oh yes, I wanted to mention that I did what a lot of designers recommend for this top edge. I worked a yarn over on the right side and dropped it on the wrong side, and I can totally tell. I mean, this is still a tight top edge, but boy, I wonder, it would have been so much worse and shorter had I not done that. Try to put that on. I am the worst at doing that without a mirror. I mean, I see myself, but no, wait. I knew this was gonna happen. Okay, I figured out that I gotta start here, and then I gotta come around, and it actually looks so nice when you put it on like this. I can do it, I promise. It just takes me some time. Is that good? I have no idea. Oh yes, here. Here you go. Oh goodness. With this shirt under it. That's just pretty stupid, right? But whatever. You get the picture. It has such a nice drape, and the yarn that I used for the custom dyed for words, I used my own lace yarn, which is called Muse, and it's an 80/20 merino silk. And with this silk, it was a good combination to go with the C-Cell blend, because both of these yarns have a really, really lovely drape. So happy to have this one off the needles finally. And this is what I have left over of my own yarn. I don't know what I did with the other one. I'll put it somewhere. I can't say. But this is actually less than I expected to be left over, because I think I had over 800 yards. And that's not too much. I didn't weigh it. It doesn't really matter, but I was just surprised how little it was. So then, like I said, I had actually started the cardigan and kind of refigured my numbers before I left on the trip, and did some swatching. And what I did was I used a yarn which I had bought in a store in Germany where I usually go and buy some yarn every year. This kind of sweater pack I still had from last year. I had not used it up yet. I had not made anything with it, but I had bought an amount that would be the right amount for a cardigan with kind of 3/4 sleeves. So I used as a rough draft, I used this, which was another cardigan that I had made a while ago, and which has short sleeves that go they cover half my upper arm. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat sometimes when you just need some warmth on your back, and maybe something a little bit longer and covering your shoulders. And but it all went a little bit different, because I will tell you in a second. At first, I need to show you my swatches because I got that yarn out and I saw, so let me start differently. I wanted to knit with two yarns held together. One of them is this one, which is called Lana Grossa Estivo. It's a, who knows what blend it is, it's not wool. Let me look that up real quick. If I can read it, that is. Oh yes, it has a very high cotton content, yes. And I think I had 5 balls of this color. And actually, I have to tell you how I do these things in that yarn store, because the lady who owns that yarn store, she's really good with colors, and she kind of looks at you, says, okay, this is your color theme and this is going to look great on you. So what I did was, I think I picked this purple first, and then and she confirms, oh yeah, that's a great color for you. And for her, by the way, she likes the same colors that I do, and they look good on her. What looks good on her looks good on me. Oh, it's kind of funny. Yeah, we like that. So I picked this. She said, yeah, great color for you. And then we went and looked which yarn we would find to combine with it, which picks up a little bit of this purple. It looks, yeah, it's a very pink, light purple, lavenderish color. So I cannot show you the ball of yarn because this is what I have left over of both of them together. The second color, the second yarn is called Portofino, Lana Grossa also. So, but when I pulled them out of my stash, I saw a few other yarns where I thought, oh, those might work too. Let's give it a try and knit a little bit of a sample. So this one, sorry, I did not bring the tag. It's also a Lana Grossa, probably a cotton linen something fiber, but it has a nice variation also, which I like. Then this pink textured yarn, and another one which is textured. I have a lot of this cotton. If you have any ideas, I mean, if you ever want to make something with cotton like this, it's a skinny, thick, thin yarn, which I think originally was meant for weaving, and Mom and I did a few things for my daughter. So here, can you see the thick, thin? So these are the other 3 yarns that I tried in a little sample, which looks like this. All very cute, very cute. But I ended up deciding that I stick with the Portofino, which I had purchased to work up together with the Fuzzy Estivo. And without further ado, here is my cardigan. I will put it on so you can see it a little bit better. And I'm very pleased with the fit and the style. Well, the style, I've done a lot of these, so I knew what I was getting. So what I did was I did want a wide neckline because I did not want this choky thing, because I knew it was going to be more of a spring, fall, summer in air conditioning garment, and I usually wear it with something that's a little more like a tank top with where the straps sit a little bit more on the outside. I don't like it too much with this here. So I used 5.5 millimeter needles for all the ribbings and sleeves and on the bottom, and the stockinette part is worked with 6 millimeter needles. I got this done in a week, and that's no witchcraft. It's due to the fat needles. Fun, I'm telling you, when you get something done so quickly. I had a little bit of a design issue, and I tell you because I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if you paid attention to that, but the measurements of this, like I said, that sleeve only goes to here. So I wanted to do that, but as I was knitting down and this thing got longer and longer, all of a sudden it hit me, and I thought it needs more balance. As a whole, I thought, yeah, sure, short sleeves, you can always do it when that is, you know, for some reason important to you. But I thought I want it as a whole more balanced as a design. So I decided to make the sleeves longer after all. And you see I decreased my stitch count ever so slightly. I mean, you can't do it just to the elbow, so it has to be a little bit, so it was like, I think it goes maybe 2 inches past the elbow, and that was just perfect. The way I did it was, when I realized that I wanted the sleeves longer, I was pretty far down, and so I think I stopped on the bottom when I had 1 whole skein of both of the yarns, and you need to know that the fuzzy stuff has more yardage than the Portofino, and so I had 5 of this and 6 of this. So I had 1 of each left and used those on the sleeves. So as you can imagine, or maybe you can't, I couldn't, I ran out of yarn on the second sleeve, and it was no big deal, but I did have to frog a little bit on the bottom. But I think I only ran out on the Portofino, which was the not fuzzy yarn. So I had whatever I had knitted up, of course I had to divide into the 2 yarns again. It was no big deal, it was just a little bit, it was a pile of yarn on the sofa in our little place where we stayed, and I was glad I had an extra day where I did not need to you know, move everything and get a big jumbled mess of yarn. And let me show you the fabric close up also, because it's really pretty. I love the variation in the Portofino, which adds so much interest to this cardigan. Yeah, and my raglan increases I work those with yarn overs. And yes, I haven't mentioned, but you probably have guessed that this is worked top down, and so when you're done, you just need to weave in your ends, which is pretty awesome and always fun. I did short rows for the front neck, and I got a little bit of a bump here, which I wasn't too thrilled about, but it did not bother me enough to rip back. I'm just working on changing that a little bit, and I realize I don't even need such deep of a neck opening in the front, because you start off with this many stitches already for the sleeves, and because the raglan then starts from here, and so you're already low down to begin with, and so you don't really need to go to down here. It's fine to have just a slight opening. It would be very much different if you had something that sits closer to your neck, and yeah, I would need a little bit more opening for that. The front edge I worked the lazy way. I worked an edge stitch, and this will be something that will be written up in a pattern. The pattern will be called the Casa Cardigan. And so back to this edge stitch, where you slip the last stitch with the yarn in the back, not the yarn in the front, and then the first stitch you knit through the back. That gives you an edge where the stitch sits kind of like flat on here. I just wanted to avoid, since it's such a simple concept, I wanted to avoid making it more complicated by having to add a front ribbing where you pick up stitches and work this way. Because what I did was I kind of like worked a vertical small ribbing to avoid too much rolling in. It still rolls in, but I haven't blocked it either. So you work back to this, how I did it. I worked one edge stitch, then on the right side it has a knit stitch and then a purl stitch before the stockinette part starts. Like I said, I have not blocked it, so I don't know if it really would work. It may not, but it doesn't matter. It hasn't bothered me when I was wearing it, because the whole purpose is to have it kind of warming the back of your shoulders, to have a little bit of something on your sleeves. And I have never even missed a button, even though I was thinking about crocheting a loop on one side and putting a button on the other side. So very happy with this. And the length is kind of like, you didn't see that because my shirt is so long, but it's about mid-butt roughly. And those were my finished objects, and I can start right away with the works in progress, because guess what? I'm making another cardigan. And this time I don't know, if you've been with me for a while, you may remember that I started this a while ago, maybe a whole year ago. And then I wasn't too happy with the fabric that I got, and it was too floppy and loosey-goosey, and I wanted it to have a little more substance, but by then I had run out of steam, and so I'm like, whatever. I put you in the corner, and that's where you stay until I have the patience again to deal with you. So this is where it was, the bag it lived in, and you can already see it's another one with fuzz. Oh, and look, oops. I had just, when I made this bag, I had just gotten my new sewing machine. Oh, by the way, on the back, cowboy stuff, more cowboy stuff. So I wanted to try the embroidery program. So what I'm using here is one of them, which you probably can own if you like this kind of yarn. You will only be able to get this in D-Stash. I don't know, I haven't looked up if there's any available, but this is a company that used to be located in Albuquerque, but they shut down. I just found out about that not too long ago. It's Ironstone Yarns. This is an all man-made yarn with, oh, I just love it. I'm such a sucker for glitter these days. Seriously, I bought silver shoes. Would you believe it? And I have some golden bags too. It's so funny. It's, yeah, I love glitter. And let me show you the yarn, a close-up, what it looks like. So a lot of texture, lots of glitter, lots of color variation, and you will see that the colors, except for the yellow that's in here, well, yeah, except for the yellow, they totally match my fuzzy yarn. This is not the same yarn as in my purple cardigan. This one is called Pep. Actually Pep print, I should say, because of they have a Pep in solid colors and the Pep in this. This is an all microfiber. I hope I'm not lying, but this is my yarn to go to when other people use mohair, because mohair itches me, and this is no comparison to some of these other fringy yarns. It's extremely soft, extremely soft. And I've worked a lot with this yarn. I have made several cardigans. Even a few years ago, I still had this yarn where I made cardigans and sold them. Back when I used to sell my hand knits, which I don't do anymore. But yeah, love this yarn. You're gonna see now, you're gonna say, show us, so where are you? What's happening? Oh, wait, I lied. I use 3 yarns for this. Like I said, I wanted more substance. I think originally I used 8mm yarn with these 2 yarns, and then I went down to 6mm because I wanted to do it exactly with the concept that I did the purple one in. Make another Casa Cardigan, and this was a 3rd yarn that I decided to hold with it. It's a little bit of a textured yarn that I think my mom found this in a thrift store. It's very fine, but exactly fits the colors of these yarns, and textured and very fine. So now, without further ado, here it is. Work in progress. And, oh, well, upside down. Okay. Smooth sailing from here on. That's how much I have already done on the body. I started also with a small ribbing, but then the short row section, I didn't quite make that as deep, and I can put that on. It's very elastic. so you can see. Probably not gonna close it either. I don't know. I like the neckline like this. So yeah, same stitch count, same needle size, 6 millimeters. These are German needles, which is, they were part of an interchangeable set. I think I'm trying to remember. I think my mother is the one who first got me a needle from these, and I just loved it so much because this wooden part is extremely smooth. So I got a few more tips for, yeah, just because I like it so much. For, dang, what's the word for this part? The black where the needles slide, the stitches slide over. Why can I not think of the word? You know what I mean. You're gonna say, Doc, you're screaming it at me right now, aren't you? Yeah. So this was the other thing that I started on the vacation, but I brought more. So I brought 2 cardigans. Oh, this one was only to start. I didn't bring all my yarns for the second one. So I stopped. I brought the Whiteout. I brought 2 pairs of socks, purple cardigan, glitter cardigan, and then I brought finally my Meristem lace shawl. I decided to bring that. I wasn't so sure if it was a good travel project because, I mean, lace, you're gonna need a chart. You need to focus more. So I wasn't sure if it was gonna be good for traveling in the car, but then I thought, well, I'm gonna have evening knitting time too, and I decided to bring it. And let me show you how it looks like. And I just loved this green one. So I decided I will, oh yeah, wait. It comes in 2 sizes. You probably figured that out from the pictures. So I decided I want this in this wonderful apple green, and I took one of my yarns, which is Sundancer, this time in a fingering, not a lace yarn, and this is the colorway green apple, solid color. Excuse me. And then the last evening before we left, I was just kind of done gathering my things, or maybe still packing a little bit. But all of a sudden I had this light bulb moment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have another beautiful, gorgeous, solid green. This one was a yarn that was gifted to me, and I have the tag here, by a very dear friend. I don't know if she watches, but I had told her, somehow we had chatted online, and I had told her, oh, I've never worked with Hedgehog, but I love, I love their yarns. I mean, I think I will love their yarns, and I would like to try when I get the chance. She sent me 2 skeins from Israel. And this is Sweet Dizu, who is very present on Instagram, and I hope she doesn't mind me telling her name, because she's just a sweet soul, and I hope you're gonna check her out there because she makes beautiful things. And that's the yarn she sent me, and that was already in 2016, beginning of 2016. So it was about time to pull that out. And is that not crazy? It's a green, bright green, that has the same value, but so different, right? This is so much more yellow. This is a lot more minty. So I was thinking, which one is better suitable for me? And I feel like both of these are great for me, great colors for me. So no problem. I had started on the trip, and I've seen this many times, one of my favorite bags that I got from Debbie, the Periscoping Sisters. And if either of you are watching, Debbie or Amy, you need to put out a podcast. This is taking too long. You hear me? I know everybody who watches them is going to agree. Yes, we think they take too long, right? So I have started the shawl. I have worked on it until something else came along, which I will show you in a second. Because that's how I am. I fly from knitting to knitting, from project to project, like a butterfly flies from a flower to flower. So what happened was, oh no, let me tell you this first. These are 4mm needles as asked for in the pattern. And they are, I think I have 2 pairs of Hiya sharps, and I decided to use them. They have the nice pointy tips. So what I did was I decided to make the small one because I thought it's going to be more usable. And the small one, I mean, look at this. It's still a big shawl. And here, I mean, you can see it here. This is still big. So I thought that's going to be fine. And so you cast on. She asks you to start with a firm cast on, and there's a difference of about 60 stitches between the 2 sizes in regards to cast on. So I cast on for the small size, and I think I'm done with my cast on, and all of a sudden I realize I made 20 stitches more than I was supposed to. And it's a cabled cast on, so heck, I'm not gonna rip those out. This is meant to be a sign. I'm probably supposed to make the large one. So that's what I did. I kept going, I kept on casting on the rest of the stitches, and then started with the pattern. And once I started knitting, I realized this is very dense and very tight and very hard. So I thought, lace, I gotta manipulate stitches. It's probably gonna be hard to get the needle in, even though I have the sharp ones, I don't know. So I decided I will focus on knitting loosely. That was a bad idea because, I mean, look at this. I'm a good and tight knitter, and here I fixed it. I mean, because, wait for it. So this is kind of a little bit irregular, right? But this is my second go, and I will tell you why. But you should have seen the first time I did this, because purposely knitting loosely my fabric, I did not like it. However, I kept going because I was kind of like, again, too lazy to frog, and I thought, oh, whatever, I'll deal with it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna block out, blah blah blah. But then I I was just ready to start the first lace section when, I don't even know why, but I had this light bulb moment where I thought, doesn't this hedgehog yarn have less yardage? So I checked, and indeed, I mean, it was, I thought with the large one, I'm probably really going to get in trouble with the large size. I'm not going to have enough yarn. And even though it's in meters, it has, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't have my readers. So it has 350 meters. I don't know what that, so that's 700 meters. That's probably about, well, more than 700. Maybe it's 750 meters or so. I mean, roughly guessing. But the yardage, it would definitely have been a close one, especially since I was forcing myself to knit loosely. So at that point, I'm like, this is it. I will root back. I will go back to the the basics, my basic ideas. I will start with the small size. If I have to start the second ball of yarn because I have two, that'll be fine. And but I'm definitely not going to play yarn chicken with this one, and I'm going to fix my knitting loosely stupid idea, and I'm going to knit tight the way I always knit, because I mean, it's to be expected that this is going to be, I'm not going to continuously work on this. So what happens if I put it aside for a few weeks, months, and then I'm like, oh yeah, let's get going on this, and I forget that I started off loosely? Who knows? So no way. This is good. I'm glad I ripped back. And now, oh, look at this beautiful color. It's so gorgeous. I don't know if Dizu is watching, but if you are, thank you. You are a sweetheart. I mean, you can figure it out. If you're a knitter, you're a knitter. You watch this, you are a knitter. So you can see there's short rows involved, and I think she suggests wrap and turn, or any way that you prefer. And for me, German short rows is the way to go, not because of the name and because I am German, but because I love, they just work best for me. That's also what I did on my cardigans. So, yep, and now on to the lace. I wanted to start that, but then something else came along. All of a sudden I thought, I should start over with the shopping bag that I was trying to make for my daughter. I showed that last time that I wanted to make that, and I kind of started off wrong, and I frogged that, but also I was a little worried about the amount of yarn that I had, so I went stash diving. I found a lot of cotton in my stash, stuff that I had bought to make something with. Maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I probably used a little bit of it, but most of it was still here. Actually, I think I was teaching and I wanted to use that in a class, and then because you never know how many people sign up, not many people signed up, so I had a lot of yarn left over. So I decided I had, how should I start? I wanted to come up with my own design because I thought that's really easy, but then I thought, well, if I really manage to make a few bags, or if I want to possibly make a few, I would like them really identical, because when my daughter told me she likes this and she showed me, oh, look at this, she's this aesthetic freak, and so she saw it somewhere where a bag next to bag was lined up on kind of like a coat rack type of thing, and it just looked so pretty in the different colors. So I thought, well, if I really want to make a few of them, it's probably smarter to use a pattern so they all look the same. So I found some free patterns on Ravelry. Actually, 2 of them I printed, and this one I also saw in some podcasts, German ones, so I don't need to tell you. This one is called the Edda Bag. And there is another one which is very similar, and it's called the French Market Bag. Looks almost the same. In the end, I decided on the Edda Bag by We Are Knitters, because I saw that other people had made it. I liked the way it looked, so I knew there was a good chance that I would like the result. I mean, very highly likely. So I kept going on it. I started 2 days ago, and yesterday I worked quite a bit on it, and until I got to the point of not understanding the pattern. So I have to say that we watched a really great movie, I think it's Erin Brockovich, with Julia Roberts. Quite old movie, but really good movie. Interesting story, based on a true story too. And so yeah, let me just show you where I am. I just stopped and watched the last 15 minutes or so without doing anything, which I never do. But everything, all my projects were here outside in the garage in my studio, and I didn't want to go out and get anything. And so I just watched, and my hands were resting. That's funny. So today my plan is to get back to this and to figure it out, because I guess I mean, other people have figured it out, people who don't live in America. Hello. So my English should be, I mean, not that I'm judging anybody, people, no, not at all, but I'm just saying my English should be good enough to understand this. So this is where I am right now. Looks already pretty good. I like it. So I wasn't sure. I know from the picture that, so I looked at the picture at least, so I know I'm gonna have to continue on the side openings. And yeah, it's not too big. I wouldn't mind having a bigger one, but once you work on this, you can tell it's really easy to modify to make a larger size, and also you can adjust the strap size, of course. So I am using the yarn called Kotlin by Knit Picks, and it's kind of like, I always thought it was cotton and linen, but it says 70% tanquis. What is that? And 30% linen. It's a DK. It has 123 yards for 50 grams, and I have this, and I have a lot more. I have at least a total of 10 colors, I think, but each of these I have only 2 balls of. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to be fine for the bag in this size, but for a larger one, I'm going to need more yarn. Or, of course, I could also, I think that would look cute if you went two-colored, like have the mesh in one color and the edging in a different color, and the handles, of course. I must say that I don't crochet a lot. I still have a corner to corner Afghan and fingering weight on the go, and whenever I start working on that, I just really enjoy it. I enjoy the rhythm of crochet, and I felt the same when I started working on this. It just has a very, yeah, it's almost like meditation. Knitting is that way too, but maybe it doesn't feel that way anymore because I'm doing it all the time. I don't know. So today I will tackle this and I will figure it out because I can. So that's the bag, the Edda bag. And what's next? I have a little list today because I knew this was going to be so much. I wanted to mention that we still have in the ZiaWoolz group on Ravelry, there is a cal going right now until the end of August for my free pattern, the Song blanket. I wrote that up a little while ago. I saw someone working on squares for a blanket, which were individual squares, and I had also made some socks where I used up, you may remember that, where I held yarn double, and I just loved the fabric. I loved the fabric on the socks, and I loved when I saw that. It's a German podcast yet again. I saw seeing the squares that the woman made with the yarn held double, and then I thought, why not just make something like the memory blanket, have a larger stitch count, and for the cast on, the way you start off, have fat needles, and then knit with your little yarn bits until you run out of yarn. And so I wrote it up as a free pattern, like I said, and now my blanket lives in this witch bag, Halloween bag. Yeah, because I love witches and I love cats and I love Halloween. So this is where I am right now, and I am knitting this with I think they're 5.5 millimeters. Just the way I wrote it in the pattern. And it's a centered double decrease, which is purled on the back rows to have a very nice and defined middle. And what I really like, so I wanted to tell you about two things. So I hold two yarns together, and one of the yarns is a hand-dyed yarn and the other one is a commercial sock yarn. But I really like how you can just go on and on until you run out of yarn. So there are a lot of ends to weave in, but that's actually really no big deal. I don't mind, because it's no complicated weaving in, because it's the back side and it's purl ridges, so easy peasy. Yeah, so this is where I am. It's already quite big, it's just that I think one square takes me maybe 1.5 hours, guessing roughly. So it's definitely not as fast as the single fingering yarn sock memory blanket, but it doesn't, I mean, that's fine. It's just, so if you say you want to finish the square, you want to finish a square at a time, you already get quite a bit done on your blanket. So the knit along in the group is still running until the end of August, and if you are working on a song blanket, put a picture in the thread, join the group, the other way around, join the group and put a picture in the thread, and there will be a chance for you to win a set of minis when the knit along ends at the end of August. And whatever, you can join now, you can already be almost done with your blanket, or you can have 2 squares, I don't care. Just join and show what you're making and say a word about your song blanket and what you like about it. That's all I want, just a little bit of, you know, chatting between the people who make a blanket. Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is my fog cutter sweater. And it's again something that you may remember. Sorry, there's a little bit of crinkling right now. I have spun yarn for this because I didn't want to knit with white yarn. That's not really my jam. It looked so cool in the white with that white shirt under it that I thought I want something similar but yet different, and so I dyed some very pale rambly fiber, and this is one of the skeins, and here is my swatch. Of course, I am totally off as usual and as to be expected with hand spun, but whatever. And the other day I finally started, and this is how far I got. This is another sigh project. Did you hear me breathing heavily just now? So I keep looking at the screen because when I recorded the German episode yesterday, it shut me off just about 45 seconds from now. So I need to see that I don't talk to a dead phone. So you know how it is. You start a sweater, you look and you're like, oh yeah, you cast on so and so many stitches, this is what I need, and you modify, you pick a different size, so you get to the measurements for your size and for your, according to your gauge. So that's what I did. Then I thought, okay, I'm done with my ribbing, let's see what happens now. And it's super interesting. So what happens is that Thea Coleman, the designer, she changes a needle size after the ribbing, but you know how usually you go up a needle size so your ribbing is tighter than the body. I mean, that's at least how I learned. But in this case, you can already tell she's done something different. And I think what she did is she went down a needle size to get this effect. Did I pay attention to this ahead of time? No, I did not. So I started this off with a lot of modifications, already picking a different size. then I thought, okay, I'm gonna fudge this with my stitch count and whatnot. And then in the end, I realized I don't like this. When I already start a sweater with this many changes, and it's already at the beginning, I have to reconfigure everything. I did not like that at all. So then I thought, well, whatever, I gotta go back to the drawing board. Maybe I skip the ribbing altogether and I make a totally different bottom edge or something. I mean, if you look at this, I mean, this is right now, it was bent here, but otherwise I think it's probably due to the hand spun, some quality of it, but it does not roll with only the one row of purl on the bottom. And so I could totally try that, but also I need to take into account that this really pulls together, because there are some twisted stitches going on. It's been a while that I made the swatch, but I will just have to figure out how to work this in a better way that doesn't leave me frustrated already, right? I mean, an hour into the project. And I will get back to it, because I really, every time I look at that picture, I think that's such a beautiful sweater, and I do want it, and I went through all the trouble with the spinning and the dyeing, and I love this yarn because this is one of my all-time favorite New Mexican Rambouillet ones that I had processed, and yeah. It is in the shop, by the way, not the dyed version, but if you ever want to dye some Rambouillet or you want to work white with it, which I don't, as I said, but it's in the shop. Actually, I may be lying. It was maybe an expired listing, because I still have a lot of this. Shoot me a message. It's just beautiful and puffy and just lovely for any kind of textured pattern, as you probably can see. Oh, I just see that I have another swatch here. What is this? Oh, that's just a stockinette one. Okay. So that's where the fog cutter is. I have also, I brought my Hitofude, which lives in this bag, another cowgirl bag, and I brought it because I'm only this far in, and I mentioned it before, I think a few episodes back, that I hadn't touched it in a long time, and I know the Hitofude is a beautiful pattern, but after I started it, it hit me that it's not really something that I typically wear. I already have another idea of what I might make, but I had 3 skeins of this, Lorna's laces in the colorway Yorkshire Skies, and this is merino, nylon, and viscose. 30% viscose, because you can tell this has a nice drape, and I just love the colors. I mean, that's gonna be a great color for me. I mean, it is a great color for me, I know that. So hereby officially decided this will be frogged soon without showing it again on the podcast. Yeah, sad, but sad truth. And then I do have, let me rearrange things here a little bit. I do have some spinning content. Not sure if I mentioned it, but I did not participate in the Tour de Fleece. I knew it was going to be too tough for me with most likely travels coming up, and I'm so spur of the moment driven a lot of times that I didn't know if I was going to be able to commit on a, however long it was, 2 weeks? Was it that long? So I didn't spin for the Tour de Fleece, but you may remember that I've started carding some beautiful little bats on my new drum carder. And I showed these on the podcast last time. Here they are again. But I must say I lied about this guy, because this was spun from some little nests that I got with a yarn order from, gosh, we read these company names all the time. Lee Wrenhouse Designs. Well, I ordered yarn, one of her beautiful skeins, and then she sent me a sample to spin of her beautiful little nests. So I have to correct that. I haven't even corrected it on my little tag here, because I put on all the tags. I'm not sure if I couldn't recall if I had told you that recently when that was a yarn festival and a demo spinning at my yarn store here in Albuquerque, the yarn store at Nob Hill, that I purchased from a local farm some Shetland roving spinning top. I'm not sure how this really actually classifies, but I think I heard in a podcast from, again, a German podcaster, where she mentioned that she loved Shetland. And in my head, I always thought that Shetland was a little scratchier. However, because this very skilled spinner said that she loved Shetland, so I thought, oh, whatever, I'm just going to try it. I bought 14, close to 15 ounces it is. Sorry, there will be some crinkling. I'm going to hold up the bag. Beautiful gray. And you know, I've been talking a lot about making another hat, this one for myself, and it just hit me when I saw that Shetland. The haps are traditionally, they're a traditional thing in the Shetlands, and so this I will use for my own hap. I had to spin a little sample, and this one I just spun a little bit of a singles, which I applied by wrapping an Andean bracelet around my wrist, and I got this little beauty. It is so soft. It's not scratchy at all. I was really thrilled. What I also found very fascinating is before I washed it, I washed it, I didn't measure, I didn't weigh, I just spun as much as I wanted and did the plying, then 2-ply yarn. But I held it up just before I threw it in the water to right where I was working. I had my water ready to go in a little bucket, and I have a hanging cabinet. So I held my skein up on that hanging cabinet, and then I have this little thing where I can hang small things of yarn right in that spot above that sink. So that's what I did. When it was dry, it was significantly shorter. So I measured in the same spot. It was at least 3 inches shorter, my skein. Very interesting, I thought. Yeah, so my thought is right now, my idea is to combine this with some of these that I just spun. Oh, look at that. It's just really lovely. In the meantime, as you know, the drum carding bats, I mean, I've done it a lot in the past, even way back when I started spinning, when I learned spinning, when I was in college. I was 20 or so when I had my first spinning wheel. And I can tell you that I used to go to a local yarn store where you could use their drum carder and work there for a fee. And I used to do that. I remember that. I got cheap wool from a local shepherd at my parents' hometown, and that's what I worked with. And that was that's what I did back then. So back then already I drum carded, but now this is a whole new thing because I want to try to do more rollags, because I personally love spinning from a rollag. So that's what I'm experimenting right now. And I have, oops, this dirt get in here. So this is what I have right now. One bin full of little rollags, and what I've done so far, I have 123 grams, and I will show you. They're all a little bit different, except of course for the ones that came from the same bat off the drum carder. This and all of these have in common this beautiful watery turquoise-ish blue, which is an alpaca fiber. And so that's the common denominator. So otherwise there's a lot of difference in the different rollags. I have done some research to figure out what to get a little more ideas, because eventually I would love to offer these in the shop. However, I feel like I need to know more to produce a good product. One of the things that I already learned and found out about is that you should use shorter fibers in rollags. And once I thought about it, it made perfect sense, because usually you would work with different fibers to get nice fun colors. You would then most likely end up with different staple lengths in your fibers. And if you imagine you have maybe something that is a longer fiber, and I feel like I've had that happening once. Can you imagine you have a long fiber that goes around maybe twice around this little thing, and then you start spinning and it would totally entangle with the shorter fibers. It makes much more sense to pay attention to all the fibers being shorter. So not to use, especially the way the silk fiber is long, you know, at least some of the ones that I have. Yeah. So that's something that I have already learned, and I can't wait to spin these all up. And yeah, then I'll see if these guys go into my hap, where I then can finally have a hap that will be blocked on my hap stretcher. Yes. And so I'm thinking a solid gray center, and then work the edge with gray and some colors, some alternating colors. Yeah. So I am still not done, but we're getting close to the end. I wanted to show you a new book that I got. I have looked into crochet patterns on Pinterest and on Ravelry. I have been intrigued by those more dimensional crochet patterns. There's a blanket, I think it's called Sophie's Universe, and there's a lot on YouTube also, and a lot on that you can get to via Pinterest, but I thought it would be nice to have a book, and this was one of the ones where you can look inside on Amazon, because I just love the chart. I love beautiful pictures, so this has a wonderful aesthetic, and I thought it would be a nice addition to my library. I also was lucky enough to win a giveaway on another podcast, and I have already received my win. I won Rachel's giveaway. Her podcast is called Yarn Equals Joy, and you can find her on YouTube, of course, and this is the beautiful skein that I won. It's a dragon horde yarn, beautiful minty greens and speckles, and I can't wait to work with this. Rachel sent it, of course, with a few other goodies and a lovely card, so thank you for that. And this is it. We have come to the end, and I wanted to say thank you for sticking with me. Oh my goodness, I wanted to show you what's in the shop right now. This was still not the end. Hold on, it's all right here. It's not much, but this is what I have in the shop, and as usual I will add more things as I get to it. These are 2 singles yarns. Roadrunner, the beekeeper's best friend. Same singles yarn in the colorway Dancing Dog. Then there is the Beekeeper's Daughter on worsted weight merino, which is called Duke. And as well, Dancing Dog on Duke. At this point, I want to tell you about something that happened a good while ago, and I don't know, somehow I always forgot to mention that on the podcast, but I am super honored that these two colorways, actually Dancing Dog and the Beekeeper's Daughter, I was asked for pictures to contribute to knitting the card game. So they, and I do have the two cards, and it's Lacey of Moonrover Dye Works. Gosh, now I'm not 100% sure what her company name is, but Lacey asked me, and I was very honored because she's such an accomplished dyer, and to ask me, a little New Mexico gal, that was really special. And I got the two cards already. I will get a card game, of course, but these two, they're of course not firmly glued in there, but I can take them out. But now I finally showed you, and this is really the end. I want to thank you for sticking with me, and thank you for hanging, if you did, till the very end. And I am looking forward to seeing you again soon, and until then, I wish you happy knitting.